I think to start off,
yes,
I think we're making a mistake in this city that we've made before.
What's that?
So we are making the same mistake with Nick Sirianni that we made with Andy Reid, and I think we're going to regret it.
What?
Well, here, let me lay this out for you. So in Andy Reid, we had at the time one of the greatest NFL head coaches of all time. May end up, when all is said and done, as the best, certainly top 3, right?
Yeah.
He's right there.
Mount Rushmore for sure.
But the entire time he was here, we were fixated really on 2 things, is why we didn't like Andy Reid, the way I remember it. The way he talked, how he was in press conferences and stuff, and his bad clock management. And of course, there was a little bit of run the ball. But overall, it was really those couple of things. And we ignored all of these great things that he did. The fact that we had such a winning franchise, the fact that we had a winning culture, the fact that we developed players, all these things we sort of ignored because of these 2 things we fixated on. And he left, and we look back at it, and we're like, boy, can you believe Andy Reid was the coach here? How did we ever let him go? So now I look at Nick Sirianni. And Nick Sirianni has only been here a few years, right? He's 41-19 as a head coach with the Eagles.
Pretty damn good.
He's been to the playoffs every single year. He's been to the Super Bowl. He continues to win. In fact, unlike Andy, we've seen him actually address the issues that people had with him, the sort of antics on the sideline, his relationship with the quarterback, all of these things that Andy didn't really do. Andy didn't really address his inadequacies, but Nick Sirianni is doing it. And then last year, the team completely melts down, which is on him. And the team, I would say the organization, though I think they made some of the moves they had to, put him in a difficult situation this year with an entire city and a media that thinks he doesn't actually do anything, 2 coordinators that he probably didn't have very much say in hiring. And 4 weeks into the season, we had what felt like the possibility of another meltdown. But what happened? After the bye week, not only did the team get better, but they came together around him. And this is the year after the team melted down. We had the complete opposite situation this year with Nick Sirianni. And I feel like what we're doing with Nick Sirianni is the same thing we did with Andy Reid. And there will be one day when we look back at this time and we think to ourselves, man, we had a pretty good head coach. And all we did was think about the 2 things that he didn't do well, aside from all of the things that he obviously does.
Here's what I like about Nick Sirianni. And a lot of you just mentioned, so I won't just regurgitate everything you just said. But I like that there is a willingness to continue to learn, to improve as a head coach. He's flexible. He's not rigid in what he wants done and the way it has to be done. And some of these guys that are stuck in their own ways. And he has a great supporting cast around him, not only on the field from a player standpoint, but when you look at the coordinators that he have at his disposal right now and the young coaches, as well as the front office, Nick Sirianni, for whatever you may think his importance in the success of the Eagles are, or his in the day-to-day operation of the team is, eventually when he is done coaching here, he will have one of the best winning percentages, probably the 2nd or 3rd most wins in franchise history, because not many coaches have racked up a ton of wins here. I would imagine Coach Vermeil is probably 2nd right now. Doug had the one great year, but he was 9-7
only
the
here
other
for a few years.
Yeah. So, and it was only a 4 or 5 year deal. So if Nick is here 5-6 years and he's put together the postseason that he's had, first of all, I would imagine he's going to be here a little bit longer than that. So listen, I won't put him in Big Red's conversation, but I get the premise of what you're saying.
Right.
I get the premise of what you're saying. And there's something to his way of coaching, the way the structure is set up within the organization right now. He is perfect for that. And he's going to continue to have success. And that's the reason why, and listen, his speeches, you can't tell me, and we'll play cuts from one later on, but he's gotten much better when you look at it from the first year to where he's at now. His ability to communicate to his players and instill some sort of emotional intelligence in them to where there's a connectivity there. Like, those are things that we may poo-poo them because we don't respect, and I'm speaking collectively, not me individually, but we don't respect his football acumen, right? Play designs, all this type of stuff. There's a lot more positive to Nick Sirianni than there is negative. And the best part about it is his players know it more than anyone.
And that's the thing I was going to bring up. 215-592-9494. Are we making a mistake in the way that we are talking about, thinking about, and treating Nick Sirianni as head coach with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yes.
Yes. I believe that we are.
Yes.
The other thing, and you touched on it at the end there, and then we'll get to Jack, who I'm sure disagrees in all of this. But the other thing is that you can hear from other players on other teams when they don't necessarily believe in the head coach. Like, look at what Micah Parsons just said about his head coach in Dallas. But to a man, you simply cannot get Philadelphia Eagles players to say anything negative about Nick Sirianni. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When Nick Sirianni is sort of under attack, they do whatever they can to stand up for Nick Sirianni. Like, they go out of their way to say, coach does this, coach does that. And it's not just I think what we learned this week, it's not just the speeches and the culture and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Even watching film of turnovers, stuff like that we heard about this week, that is another thing that this role maybe opened him up to do, that gave him the ability to do. So I'm fine criticizing him when he does things that are not good, that he makes a decision that you can criticize. But the criticism versus the praise is far on the wrong side here. He does far more good than bad, and I do think we treat him unfairly. 215-592-9494. Jack, do you think we're making a mistake?
No, not at all, because I think just about anyone could do this job. For the Eagles.
Wow.
They are set up in such a different way than they were in the early 2000s. Like, Andy Reid laid out the blueprint for this. Andy Reid was a transformative coach for the Eagles. Nick Sirianni is just a key cog here. He's a cog in the wheel. But they can almost hire anyone, and they would have a similar record that Nick Sirianni has.
That's not true.
I in football terms, of course, like, that's simplifying it a lot.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, almost any head coach could do what Nick Sirianni's done.
I think that's crazy.
But
I
Andy
think
Reid, like, what he did was transformative. What did Nick Sirianni really do here?
But I think you're missing my point. My point is not that Nick Sirianni is Andy Reid. My point is that we made a mistake in how we viewed Andy Reid, and we are making a mistake in how we view Nick Sirianni. If you think it's easy to keep 50-plus professional athletes who are all have their own contracts, all have their own goals, on the same page, working toward the same goal. If you think that's easy, you're crazy. If you think anybody can do that, you're crazy. Is it a good setup? Sure, it's a good setup. Yeah. But it doesn't. There are plenty of talented teams in the history of the NFL that did not succeed, that did not add up to that maybe separately were a bunch of talented players, but didn't end up as a good team. So for you to say that anybody could do what he's doing, I think that's crazy.
Yeah, it's low over the top.
Yeah. 215-592-9494.
You're comparing him to the best coach of all time, arguably. I'm the one that's over the top.
But I'm not.
That's not exactly what he's saying.
It's not at all what I'm saying. It's not at all what I'm saying. I just think that at some point we're going to look back on this like we do a lot. We look back and
we're not.
No,
we're going to look back on it like we look back on Doug. Oh, Doug's great. Doug's about to get fired, okay? And Doug won a Super Bowl.
No,
they're the same coach.
There are so many. They're not the same coach though. Well, I mean, they have some similarities, but they're not the same coach. I mean, and by the way, Doug was a good coach here, and we look back on him as a good coach. And by the way, it's not just coaches that we do this with. We look back on Donovan now, and we say, man, Donovan, we had it pretty good at the time with Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
We had one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for a decade. We look back, think about the way it was when Iverson was here. Everybody was fighting about whether we should have Iverson or not have Iverson. Now we look back on Iverson and we say, well, at least he played every game. There's a lot of times we do this, and I think we're doing it with the coach.
By the way, last night,
it's not a great start.
No, I'm just saying, Bubba Chuck looked good last night.
Well, he was dressed in Knicks colors.
He doesn't care. He doesn't realize it. He just puts outfits on, man. He just puts clothes on. He doesn't know the color scheme.
He looked cool, but of all nights to do orange and blue.
I agree.
like he was trying to send a message or something. What was that all about?